it's time to take a look at what's grabbing headlines here in France. Flo's here to do that.
Hello.
Hi there, Flo. And we're starting with Le Monde and a special investigation it's done on French prisons and who is in them. And it turns out that there's one portion of the French society that tends to be more likely to be imprisoned than another.
That's right. Le Monde starts out an investigation saying this is a very taboo topic. Let's take a look at the front page of Le Monde. You can see they're talking about how citizens of immigrant origin are overrepresented in French prisons. Now, what are the reasons? Well, it's a string of factors. You have poverty, a lower level of education, but also things like discrimination and the way the justice system works. And all this compounded means that people of immigrant origin tend to be put behind bars more than they represent in the population. And it means that small-time delinquents as well are likely to find themselves behind bars.
And of course, all this is quite a difficult thing to measure because in France there are no official statistics linked to either ethnicity or to religion.
That's right. Now, Le Monde says that this is according to what sociologists say. Now, according to sociologists, and they spoke to guards and inmates, the proportion of Muslims behind bars is between 40 and 60%. Now, keep in mind that it's estimated that about 10% of the French population is Muslim. Once again, these are not official statistics, these are just estimates. So how can you figure out that there are a lot of immigrants or people of immigrant origin behind bars? Well, there are two official statistics. First of all, the proportion of foreign citizens behind bars, that's about 18%, whereas they represent 6.4% of the global population. And then there's another interesting statistic, and that is the number of people who sign up for special menus during the holy month of Ramadan. And this year it was about a third of inmates. So that's the way they've calculated these interesting statistics.
Well, let's take you now to Catholic paper La Croix. It has an interview with the French Justice Minister, and he's reacting to the police protests here in France. They've been staged since Monday, and they're not letting up.
That's right. It's really unusual for the police to protest in France. They're essentially angry about what they call a wave of violence against them. They say the justice system is too lax, it's too permissive, especially since a recent reform to the justice system that was put in place in 2014. It was aimed essentially at keeping people out of French prisons because they're overpopulated. Now, what you can see here is a quote from the Justice Minister, Jean-Jacques Urvoas. He says, prison is the easy solution. It's the easy way out. It shouldn't be the go-to solution. And inside, it's a really interesting interview. He actually defends the justice system. He defends this reform. He says it's starting to work. Remember, it was put in place in 2014. We are starting to see results. And it's interesting, he kind of puts the police back in their place. You can see this quote here. He says, look, it's up to the police to take people in for questioning. It's up to the justice system to decide who goes behind bars, who goes to prison.
Well, and of course, this police protest is a big story in the press. And with this whole pre-electoral season just gearing up, politicians are sitting up and taking notice as well.
That's right. In particular, the far-right leader, Marine Le Pen, she's jumping on this occasion to fish for some votes, according to Le Parisien. After all, law enforcement is an electorate that's increasingly drawn to the far right. You can see that graphic of the police officer. It shows how law enforcement has voted in the past couple elections. 24% voted for the National Front in 2007, 39% in 2012, and it's projected to vote 56% in the upcoming election. So you can see it's gradually increasing. Marine Le Pen is feeling the love, and she's sharing her love as well. According to Aujourd'hui en France, she has declared her flame for the police on social media with a video. You can see a little screen grab of that, and that hashtag, Je soutiens la police, I support the police.
I guess that's a hashtag we'll be seeing more of. And now left-leaning Libération, which is also focusing on the upcoming election. And it has moved the focus to another group that all the parties want to get a hold of with their vote.
That's right. It might be surprising, but it's senior citizens. And you can read a really interesting report here in Libération. People 60 years old and up tend to vote for the traditional right. They find the far right, the National Front, a little too scary. So they want to be reassured by the right. This is a major challenge for parties that are trying to woo them, the far right and also the socialists. And so you can see some photos here and portraits of senior citizens who so far aren't quite sure who they're going to vote for.
Let's move on to another story now that's getting a lot of attention in the French press. This is the fate of nativity plays coming up to Christmas. Are they in danger?
That's right, and this is the highest administrative court in France, the Conseil d'État, that's going to decide whether town halls, so public town halls, are allowed to display nativity scenes at Christmas time. Now remember, France is a very secular country, and this is an issue that comes up time and again. Now, the law of 1905 on the separation of church and state state bans any religious symbols from public space. The debate is, are nativity scenes, which depict the birth of Jesus, are they a religious symbol or are they just traditional? Of course, secularism, laïcité, is something that has come up a lot in the wake of the recent terrorist attacks. Le Figaro says the Conseil d'État has its work cut out for it. It's expected to rule in a couple of weeks, just in time for Christmas.
A lot of people were looking at that decision there to come. Flo, with the French papers, with that French press.